Recording in progress.
It's ready? Okay. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, 4 o'clock Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Mr. Jim Meyer? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is resignations, item number 3. Board of Finance, Jack H. Testani, Republican, 109 Meadowcrest Drive, term 1119 to 1125. He resigned as of October 1st, 2024. Thank Jack for all his work over the years. Brenda would like to say something about Jack?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. I'd like to thank Jack for his service on the Board of Finance. He came in during a tumultuous time and dealing with the pandemic like we all were. And he really gave his all to the Board of Finance and always put the interest of our town first. And I want to thank him for his service to our town.
Thank you.
Echo thanks to Mr. Testani. Appeared before him many times as Board of Ed Chair, and while we often were at odds, he was truly a gentleman. When the meeting was over, always enjoyed our conversations, and wish him the best of luck as he moves on.
Thank you. And B is the Employees Retirement Board, Jim Brown, or James B. Brown, Republican, 90 Ross Hill Road, term 1121 to 1126. He resigned as of September 16th, 2024. I've known, I think all of us have known Jim a long time. He's one of the true gentlemen in this town and has served this town in many different capacities. Just a pleasant person, a nice person, a really smart person. And I'm sad he's had to step down for this, but hopefully in the future we'll get him to do something else. Would anyone, Brenda, would you like to say anything? Or?
Yeah, no, I'll echo what you have to say, Bill. Jim was a stellar member of the Board of Finance for many years and was the chair when I came into office, and we had obviously the Phil Pile and the Penfield Pavilion and COVID and all of the just insurmountable challenges. And what I would say most about Jim, aside from the things that you have said, which are all true, is that Jim always put the town's interests first. He was definitely town over party. He cared about doing the right thing. And I have to say he's a wonderful person, and I'm sorry that he has to step down, but I do want to thank him for his service.
I also would like to thank Jim. Always served as a role model, what an elected official should be in terms of decorum, being willing to raise the level of civil discourse and looking to build collaboration. Agree, absolutely, town before party, and something we should all aspire to. We will definitely miss him, and hopefully he comes back in another capacity. He thought he was done Board of Finance, and we brought him back in. We just bring him back in.
Yeah. So item number 4, appointments. So here's the silver lining on Board of Finance. We get Jim Myers, Republican, 25 Lawrence Road, term 1024 to 1125. He's replacing Jack Testani, Republican, who resigned. I worked with Jim on the RTM. Even though I'm sure there were some, I can't really recall which ones, but I'm sure we didn't agree on everything. But one thing I know is that he was always a gentleman, always cordial, and always explained why he wasn't voting on something succinctly. I think we're really, really lucky to get you, Jim. The Board of Finance is really lucky to get you.
I was going to ask if he wants to speak.
Oh, would you like to speak? Yes, you can. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jim Myers, 25 Lawrence Road. I first would like to say thank you to the RTC for putting my name forward for this position. hopefully I'll be thankful to the Board of Selectmen for this appointment. I'm very much looking forward to serving the town of Fairfield in this role. I think my background serves it very well. And I very much am looking forward to working with the other members of the Board of Finance, who I respect very highly and value everything that they do in this town. So that's it.
Thanks, Jim. Oh, and his wife Sharon is here, who was my son's math. But you can't fail him now. You can't fail him. No. Any? Would you like
Any
to?
children's.
Yeah.
No, just thank you for stepping up and serving. I think your background will be perfect for this board and look forward to working with you.
And I just want to thank Jim for stepping up. He did run for this position. He had wanted to freely, so well. God bless him for wanting to serve on the Board of Finance, and he brings a wealth of very relevant qualifications to be, I believe, a very excellent member of the Board of Finance. So thanks, Jim.
Any comments from the public? Karen, you want to say something about Jim? Back to the board. All in favor say aye.
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 Congratulations, Jim. And you guys don't have to stick around if you guys like to work.
Thank you very much.
Item B, see you later. Item B, 2024-2025 Charter Revision Commission to hear and approve Jane K. Biagini, Democrat, 480 Catamount Road. She's here today. Daniel M. Blanco, unaffiliated, 83 Galloping Hill Road. I believe he's planning on being here via Zoom. Don't see him yet. Oh, he's there. Okay. Christopher W. DeWitt, Republican, 289 Davis Road, is here via Zoom. Mary Hogue, Mary L. Hogue, unaffiliated, 165 Stonewall Lane, who is here in person. Brian McCann, Republican, 111 11 o'clock Road. He is unable to attend due to a work conflict. Gerald McHenry, Democrat, 24 Larkspur Road, is attending in person. Eric Treshik, Democrat, 306 Quincy Street, is attending via Zoom. And Karen Wackerman, Democrat, 192 Shore Village Drive, she can't attend due to a work conflict. So I would like to start by saying I'm really, really excited about this group. I think it's a diverse group of people, most of whom I didn't know before I had the opportunity to talk to them about this, or many of whom I didn't know. And the mix of institutional knowledge about our municipal government, skill sets. We certainly definitely look for legal, some legal skill sets. I believe everyone here is going to bring something unique to this commission. They have a great starting point. The last commission, although it wasn't approved, most of that document I think is going to be really, really helpful for them, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But could I ask individually? Could I ask people to talk about them, come up and say a few words about themselves? So you want to start with Jane?
And thanks for the opportunity to collaborate and work with the town in hopefully building a roadmap for the future. And I'm looking forward to getting the input of the diverse population that we have in town to ensure that we are well prepared for the future. So I'm new to all of this and fresh set of eyes, and hopefully can get approved by the Board of Selectmen to move forward.
So I was really thrilled about your background in ethics and your years at GE and globally and in the US. So I think you're going to bring a lot to this commission. Would anyone else like to ask any questions or make any comments?
We spoke to Jane probably the beginning of the year when she first expressed an interest in the Ethics Commission. Thought that she would have been wonderful for that board, and I think that her experience served this commission well. And I think that fresh voices. When I was looking, I want to thank many people. Many of our residents applied for this commission. Looking at the applicants, trying to find a diverse skill set is important to me. So I very much appreciate your corporate experience as well as looking at it through an ethical eye moving forward.
Any questions or comments? Brenda? All right, Jane, thank you so much. Next, we have Daniel Blanco. Daniel's here by Zoom. While Daniel and I didn't speak much, our daughters actually played volleyball together. So I've been in the same room with Daniel many times, but really not until he expressed an interest in serving did I get to know him a little bit better. He's, in my opinion, I am incredibly excited about his desire to serve the town. His background is incredible. But Daniel, if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, it'd be great.
Sure. First, I wanted to thank everybody, all the selectmen, for being considered. I think public service is the highest honor of anybody's life when you can help others. Fairfield is the nicest town I've ever lived in. I've been here for 14 years with my wife, Donna, my two girls. Every time I walk down Post Road, I look around, I pinch myself because of the beauty, the wonderful people that live here, and any way I can help is something really meaningful, important to me as a family man. My family is Latino, Mexican, and Cuban, first generation. I work as a fund manager in real estate, both development and raising funds. I deal with contractual issues daily. And I think through collaboration, cooperation, and a shared experience and understanding a results-oriented outcome, you always foster the best possible solutions. And that's, I hope to bring to the town. Again, it's a huge honor for me to be able to work with everybody here. And I look forward to the collaboration going forward.
Just and you're also really active with the police.
Yeah, I'm the president of the police foundation, where that particular organization raises funds outside the budget for things like the canine unit, officers wellness, scholarship. It's been a real joy to work with the entire department. I will tell you that we are incredibly fortunate to have one of the best departments I've ever seen. I work with Ray Kelly in NYPD. We put the Lower Manhattan Security Initiative in one of the buildings that we owned, and we're amongst the finest professionals with the utmost ethics. So I think, again, we're really, really lucky to have such a great town with great representation and great police.
Thanks, Daniel. Any questions for Daniel?
Just thank you for stepping up and volunteering to serve on this commission. I think your business background is a nice fit with the other skill sets of members that are being proposed before us today.
Thank you so much.
Brenda? Next, we have Chris DeWitt. Chris is on by Zoom. I do know Chris quite well. He's been serving this town. He's been a public servant for, I don't know, decades, and most recently on the Board of Finance and American Legion. So, Chris, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, Chris DeWitt. 16 years Board of Finance member. I'm marking my 1 year marking my 1 year anniversary from being off of the board. And I also want to say congratulations to Jack Testani for his service, and thank you for the service. Thank you for his service to town. I have a second. I'm also commander of one of our American Legion posts in town, very active American Legion posts. So I think what I bring to this commission is 16 years of town politics. And I don't mean that from a political perspective. I mean that from a functional, how the town works, and some of the maybe the nuances of town that I had experienced through Board of Finance and just other experiences. So very much looking forward to serving with you all. And I think that's it, Bill. Thank you for the board. And thank you in advance anyway for the board for recommending me.
And when Chris was a driving force in creating a new purchasing policy for the town. It's very detail oriented, and actually after he left continued to help advise on that. And I think we're in a better place now because of that. So thanks for that.
I appreciate that.
So next, I'm sorry, anything you'd like to say about or ask? Yeah.
I want to thank Mr. DeWitt for I hope you enjoyed your year of retirement, that you're coming back to serve. Worked with Chris closely when he was on the Board of Finance. He always reached out at budget time just to get a better understanding of the Board of Ed budget. Appreciated his collaborative spirit. I'm appreciative of any past elected official who is volunteering again to serve. When we approved forming the commission, this board expressed a desire of having people that have hands-on experience working with the charter serve and provide institutional knowledge, and I could not think of anybody better than you, Chris, to fill that role. So thank you.
Thank you very much. You're very kind.
Brenda?
I'm good.
Good. Next, we have Mary Hogue. Thanks, Chris. So Mary, there's too many things to say about Mary. It'll take forever, but she was Fairfielder of the Year years ago. Co-founder of Sustainable Connecticut, Sustainable Fairfield. She has run Earth Day for how many years?
You'd say too long.
Basically, PTA president. There's just too many things. The Forestry Commission. She comes into my office regularly about sustainable initiatives. Most recently, was spearheaded the getting gold status for the town. Am I allowed to announce that yet? Okay. So we are a gold status town. We were silver, now we're gold. They created the gold level this year, right? Last year, and we got it the next year. So Mary brings to the table, although you do, I believe, have a business or some business background as well, but Mary brings a perspective about sustainability, equity, and also the school system, and basically in being involved in every aspect of the town. Would you like to speak first?
Well, I'll just say. Yes, thank you. I really am honored to be able to work on this. And as you said, we're starting at a very good point from the prior commission. So not easy, but certainly helped by that. I'm looking forward to working with the other commissioners. I think you covered my background. I have not been paid for a while, but I did get paid at one point to do computers and education also.
No questions, known Mary for a long time, and just in the last charter revision, there was concerns about conservation and sustainability and equity, and I think that a lot of the work that you do and have done for decades for this town and the connections you have made will be a valuable voice to the work moving forward, that we have a charter that captures the things that we love about this town, but also is forward thinking. So I thank you for volunteering. When I first saw your name come up, I'm like, how is she going to have the time to do this with everything else? But I'm trusting that you will find the time and be serious about this commitment to this. It is very, very important, as you well know.
Brenda?
I'm good.
Thank you, Mary. So next, Brian McCann can't be here. Hopefully Brian will if this all goes as hoped, Brian will introduce himself at the next meeting, or the first meeting of the commission. But Brian is a very accomplished municipal attorney, and so I think he's going to bring with him a wealth of understanding of other town charters, a history of this town charter, and so he will be, I believe, a guiding light on this commission. Brent, anything you'd like to add about Brian?
No, if you don't mind, I'd like to speak at the end of, after we're done with you introducing the appointees.
Okay. Would you like to say anything about Brian?
I just think his experience will be very valuable. I look forward to meeting him in person.
So number 6 is Jerry McHenry. So Jerry is also an attorney, and I have only met you a couple of times in this room, but Jerry has an incredible resume as well. He's going to be another person who will help guide the legal side of things, but also knows the town well and understands this responsibility deeply and understands the ethics side and standards of conduct side of things as well. So I am really thrilled to have Jerry on this board, and I'd love to on this commission. I'd love to hear you say a few words.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but I think it's rather appropriate. I'm at the Jefferson Hotel in Richmond, Virginia, in the birthplace of where our democracy began. I'm a trial lawyer. I've been a trial lawyer for 40 years, a member of the Connecticut Bar for 40 years. My wife and I have lived in Fairfield since 1985. And when I moved to Fairfield, I started to become active in those things that I knew. Without any kids involved, I coached baseball. I coached Wakeman. I coached all types of sports. I got involved with the Democratic Town Committee. I was elected to the RTM in 1989, served one term, and moved from what used to be the 12th district to the 4th district, which was a little less friendly to the opportunity of electing a Democrat. So I continued to pursue my business career. And at this point in time, I'm looking to give back to the town that has given so much to me and my family. And I look forward to the opportunity to serve them.
Thank you, Jerry. Any questions? Okay. So thanks, Jerry. Next is Eric Treshik. Eric's on remotely. Eric has put in for multiple boards and commissions that he would like to serve on, and I knew that the right one would come along, and I believe this is the right one for Eric. He's got, I don't know if you've had a chance to read his CV, but he has significant experience in things like corporate transformation. He was vice president of global change management of a company. He also has a marketing background, and his education includes a BS in electrical engineering and computer science, as well as an MBA. So I think Eric's going to bring both business and practical life and work experience to this board. Eric, would you like to say anything?
Yes, Bill, thank you. And thank everyone for the opportunity. Similar to Jerry, I'm actually down in Virginia, so apologize I'm not there in person. My mom had scheduled surgery, so I'm being a good son in the hospital with her as she recovers, but looking forward to meeting everyone in person. And we first moved to Fairfield in 2008 and subsequently transferred to Canada for work, but we chose to move back here in 2017 because we liked Fairfield so much. Married with 3 kids, 2 of which are in college now, and all 5 of us are heavily involved in a number of different civic and community activities. But as Bill just mentioned, this is my first town role. I've been looking to get involved, and I'm thrilled at the opportunity here, as I do believe I'll bring a fresh and outside perspective. And I'm looking forward to helping Fairfield continue to be a great place to live.
Thank you. Welcome to public service here in Fairfield. I think you'll be a great addition. I think your background in organizational management and HR will be a value add as we're moving forward with this.
Thank you, Christine.
Next, we have Karen Wackerman. So Karen can't be here because of a work conflict, but Karen has been on the RTM for many years. I forget how many terms. She's an attorney with Pullman and Comley. She is one of 2 people on this board who have served for many years in town government, along with Chris DeWitt, which I thought it was important to have that, institutional knowledge of the way the government, not just on paper, but how it actually works. So I expect she'll be able to advise the board, especially on RTM matters, because she was the moderator of the RTM, and I believe she was also, she was the moderator of the RTM. And she's also an extremely even-keeled person, very, very easy to work with, and I know that firsthand. So you may be wondering why we have 8 people on this board, and I think on this commission, I should say, and that was intentional. I think it will help ensure that anything that passes, I'd rather have nothing pass than have it pass 5-4. So I'm hoping that this board will work together in harmony and come to consensus so that we won't have anything at least less than a 5-3 vote on important matters. Anyone, I think, would you like to say anything just to sum up, or I know Brenda would like to speak.
No, I'm just to Ms. Wackerman and get it. I would like to thank her for also stepping up, even though she's not here. Again, just having a former RTM member and a moderator, working knowledge on all aspects of the charter and working with all different boards. So I think that her experience will be helpful, and her personality is definitely, as you said, even-keeled. So I thank her for volunteering. Just to reiterate, when I was looking through, I want to again thank the many residents who applied for this commission. It was not easy. In selecting who I thought would be, I would want representing our town and my own personal interests. It was not necessarily just one person, but looking at the collection of all 8. So that was what sort of drove my own personal decision-making, having a mix of business background, community engagement. This is going to be in the legal document that guides our town operations, so I think it's important to have legal advice on this commission, as well as the ethical piece, just to raise the bar and set the standard for what the town of Fairfield is. And I think the charter is that document that bodies who we are in terms of town operations and government. So that's my approach to it. I don't know the approach that both of you took, but that is my perspective.
Selectwoman Kopchik.
Yes, thank you. First, I just want to say that I do have to sign off, unfortunately, at 5. As I shared with Jen Carpenter, my dad's been in the hospital for the last 2 weeks, and I did want to thank Selectwoman Vitale for taking the time to reach out to me and share some kind words about my dad. They were very much appreciated. I do want to say I did get the list, as we all did, well, as Christine and I both did, and Jennifer had reached out to me asking for my recommendations, and I had told her that I didn't really have the bandwidth over the last 2 weeks because I have been at the hospital pretty much every day. But that I had some recommendations, and I had written in the email that I was assuming that the first selectman would put forward a balanced list, 2 or 3 members from each party and 1 or 2 unaffiliated members. And as we can see, this really isn't a balanced list. I had recommended people, and actually none of them were chosen of people I already knew. One of the choices that I recommended was former RTM member Hal Schwartz, who was literally the first person months and months ago to apply for trooper provision. It was something that I know because I served with Hal Schwartz many years ago on the RTM. And he always had a real passion for charter. So I was really disappointed that he wasn't chosen. But I did have some other concerns and these are concerns that I'd raised in the past when I was the first select person. I thought, and we talked about this during the meetings, that I believe we should have attorneys, and I'm very glad that Mr. McGarry applied, because that wealth of legal knowledge is really, I think, important. While the former Charter Commission did do a very, very good job laying the foundation essentially for this new commission, they did a tremendous amount of work despite a lot of pushback. I do have some concerns that we do have the only other 2 attorneys, which I believe attorneys are really important because the charter is a legal document. They both work for a law firm that does business for the town of Fairfield. And so I do have a concern with that as far as a conflict goes. I do feel that the public probably wouldn't think that that was a great idea to have the only other 2 attorneys have a relationship and a paid, or their firm is being paid by the town of Fairfield. I would have liked 2 current elected officials, 1 from each party, to be on the commission, and I really felt that it would be a lot more balanced than it is. I think that this commission, and I have nothing against anybody on this commission, nothing personal. I really don't. My head has been worrying about my dad the last 2 weeks, so I just want to say that I have nothing against anybody. I just think that this is a very important commission, and I think it should be balanced. And Bill, I feel like it's not bipartisan, and it's not collaborative, and it kind of continues to be a pattern of behavior of silencing different viewpoints. I was asked for my recommendations, and they weren't. I wasn't given the courtesy of those. So it's too bad, really, because I would have really liked to vote in favor of this. I'm going to have to abstain because I feel that 2 members being put up or have conflicts, and I feel like we could have really tapped into some people that some other, not saying that anyone that is left on the commission that have real legal knowledge and familiarity with a legal document like the charter. So unfortunately, I will have to abstain from the vote.
And of course, you're entitled to your opinion. I just want to point one thing out. It's like you had 3 recommendations, and one of them was Brian McCann, who was selected. So that's not true that we didn't select people that you wanted. The other thing is that only one Republican one other Republican who wasn't selected applied. The rest were Democrats, or unaffiliated. And so one Republican that applied was not selected, and that person has never served on a board or commission. I think part of the issue, I mean, I don't really know many, several of these people very well who we put on, and just going off of their credentials and discussions with them. If more Republicans had applied who with the skill set that we need, they would have been selected. I could say that.
Well, I would just say, Bill, that Republican is an attorney and works in municipal government. So that would have been very helpful, I think, to the commission. And I apologize again, I was not completely paying attention. I did think, that Brian being an attorney was good, but then when I had a chance before the meeting, I realized he works for a firm that is paid by the town, so.
Okay. But you did select him, and I'm sorry, the person you're talking about is not an attorney, so.
They are an attorney and they work for municipal government and labor relations.
You need to double check that, Brendan, honestly, double check that and come back to me, but that's not the case. So anyway, I appreciate your opinion, and you certainly have a right to feel how you feel. Any other comments? Any comments from the board, from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Abstain? Okay, thank you. Congratulations to everyone, Mary who's here, and Jane, and Eric, and Daniel, and Chris, and Jerry. Thank you for stepping up, and then we'll be getting in touch in the near future about dates for the first meeting, right? Thank you, but you should probably, if you can, stay on because the next agenda item is relevant if you can, but if not, then talk to you soon. Okay, so item number 5. To hear, consider, and act on any recommendations from the Board of Selectmen to the Charter Revision Commission pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 7-190A. Phil Pierce is here, and we may want to ask his advice, but I'll just start by saying, with discussions with our town attorney, we as a Board of Selectmen have the right to ask the Charter Commission to at least consider certain things, and we don't have to produce them all today. We can do this at a later date as well. So if Brenda, when things calm down in your life a bit, and Christine, we can come back and ask them to look at additional items. Is that right, Phil? But I had most of the list that I put forward, most of it came from the appeal to put money back in the budget for this charter revision, with a couple of additional items. And first of all, I'd like to start, just if I could explain these. Item number 1 is I am hoping, and obviously the Charter Revision Commission has broad latitude to take these recommendations or not, but they have to address our recommendations as a board. So number 1 is we're hoping that you don't start with the current charter, that your basis for commencing your work will be the charter that was voted on and was not approved as an omnibus question in August of 2022. But by the time that charter went through the process and was voted on by the Board of Selectmen, most of it was good, and a lot of work went into it, as Selectwoman Kupchik said. And starting from that basis should save a lot of time in, especially things like just reorganizing the document. It's a long document, and that took a lot of time in itself. The document was clear and easier to read. There might be certain things in the revised document that caused it not to be passed, and those can be backed out, but I think that is a more efficient way of approaching this than starting with the current document. So that's my hope, and I put that in this letter. Terms of elected office, I'd love for the commission to look at standardizing the terms at 4 years for most elected offices. We still have a 6-year term on the Board of Finance. It's my belief, after having, some of the changes we've made on the Board of Ed to remove the 6-year term. 6 years is a lot to ask of someone who's volunteering. And I think doing it this way probably dissuades many very, very qualified people from running. So just to look at this as something to consider. Item number 3 is something that we've talked a lot about at these meetings. Right now, the threshold for contracts that have to be approved by this board, the threshold is far too low. Anything 3 months or longer, even if it's $1 a month, is by charter. It's supposed to come before us if it's an annual contract. And 10,000 is the other limit. That is too low as well. So we're asking you to consider a higher threshold. Item number 4, qualifications and eligibility for town officers. And some of this has already been dealt with in the 2022 by the 2022 commission. Number 1 is many people that we will hire. Right now, we require our fire and police chief to be electors in the town of Fairfield, which means they are residents of Fairfield. That it is not easy to find the best, the right people. Many, if people are moving up internally, at this point, you will disqualify many people from this position because they will have established their lives outside of Fairfield, because Fairfield is an incredibly expensive place to live. And a young firefighter or a young policeman most likely can't afford to live here. So to ask them to uproot themselves and come here if they live in the next town or 2 towns over, I believe is, and I think the past commission was correct. That is too much to ask, and will limit the candidates for these top jobs. The same thing for the head of the Department of Public Works. Having been in this position, I think the prior administration was correct that being a professional engineer is one path that many people take in their career, but if you have an engineering undergraduate degree and you decide you want to go into management, you don't necessarily benefit by getting your PE. And so good managers with engineering backgrounds don't, a PE doesn't necessarily make a good DPW head, and good managers don't always take the PE route. So sometimes it's a choice that these people, these professionals make. Will I go the PE route or will I go the management route? And by disqualifying engineers without PE, I think we're going to find it very hard to hire the people that we need in this position. Advisory bodies, as I went through the charter, I found that there's a distinction between bodies that review things and provide recommendations to a department head, and a body that votes, and their vote has the force of law. And I would hope that there's some way of making a distinction, because we do have something called the single office requirement. And for somebody who, for example, who's on the Economic Development Commission, I don't think they should necessarily, which is purely advisory, necessarily be disqualified from, holding another office. And right now, it's not really clear in the charter. Term of office for town officers. You can read this on your own, but we have certain, really the confusing nature of this is we have certain appointed town positions. We have an internal auditor. We've got a head of conservation. These positions are appointed sometimes by state statute. They have to be appointed. Some of them don't have a term affixed to them, and we should clarify that because it says they're appointed, but currently there's no term next to that position, which is confusing. Minority representation on the Board of Education. The 2022 CRC did deal with this. You may be aware that in the current charter, the way things work is, I don't know, can I call it the midterm election? We've got 9 members on the board in an election year where we have 4 members. Essentially, all you have to do is get through your primary, put up 2 candidates, and the election is not a real election because everyone's getting on. What happened in the last go round of the charter is they made it possible to have a 6-3 party majority, which made that that 4-person election, 4-seat election competitive, which I believe was unanimously agreed to. Section 9.15, this is one that's near and dear to my heart, and I've been really obsessing over this a little bit. I think the internal auditor reporting to the chief fiscal officer is fraught. Sometimes you have someone who is often auditing their boss and their boss's department. While that may you can justify that by saying, well, of course, the CFO will always do the right thing, but it's not always the case in reality. And sometimes I think the internal auditor should have an independent body to report to. I believe it could be the Board of Finance, it could be the audit committee of the Board of Finance, but I do believe there needs to be a solid line outside of the department. The administration. Item number 9 is pretty straightforward. It doesn't really make any sense. It's antiquated. There's something about the Board of Finance being in charge of the assessment system for the valuation of properties. It just does not work that way. The Board of Finance really has nothing to do with how the assessments work. Item 10 is small. Item 11 is very important, in my opinion. We have state statutes that deal with how water pollution control authorities work and what they have to be able to do. But in our chart, but they can do more. And you have water pollution control authorities that are completely independent, have their own staff, their own finance people, their own construction people, project managers. We're a large town, and some of these independent authorities are bigger cities. Our authority has always relied very heavily on the town to provide the project management, construction, those services. I think we need to clarify this relationship in the charter because currently it's really unclear. Town administrator, I do agree that we need this position in the charter. This is not, a town our size needs an operations person. And we're finding that more and more every day. We need some function and a leader who is really well versed in how municipalities operate. I don't care if it's called a town administrator or a chief administrative officer, a chief operating officer, a town manager, whatever. This position should be here, and I think it should be described in the charter. Standards of conduct and ethics. I know the RTM is working on these areas as for an ordinance, but there are sections in the in the charter on this, and the two need to be aligned. So hopefully, as we work through this language in the charter, that it is aligned with the ordinance. Town seal, I think that's pretty self-evident. Gender neutral terms. The former CRC dealt with gender neutral terms. Every time I call my colleague here, a first selectman, I feel a little embarrassed by that. She insisted on it because she said that's what's in the charter. So she's a real legal minded person, but we shouldn't have to do that. In defined terms, there's a lot of fairly unclear terms in the charter. Commissions established by the charter. Take a look. Hopefully, you'll take a look at things like the Solid Waste and Recycling Commission, which is not in the charter, whereas other ones are. I'm not clear why that one is not in there. We should look at what should be in and what should not necessarily be in the charter. It could just be through an could be exist through an ordinance. My compensation, the first selectman compensation, that's pretty self-evident. So I'd like to open this up for questions and just reiterate that as you, this is my list, as you develop your own lists, we can talk about them and vote on them as well. But I think with the Charter Revision Commission forming hopefully soon, this will hopefully provide a little bit of a starting point for them.
You also have the town clerks.
Oh, I'm sorry. The town clerks, thank you, Phil. On my computer, do you have that? Thank you. So Betsy Brown, our town clerk, has her list. Sorry. She's been talking about this for some time and wants to clear up confusion about some of the dates as they exist. So I'm just going to read it verbatim. Town elections in terms of office. The terms of office of elected town officials in the RTM shall commence on the third Monday in November after their election and qualification, and shall continue until their successors have been elected and qualified. The change she'd like to propose is the terms of office of elected town officials in the RTM shall commence on the third Monday in November and shall continue until their successors have been elected. And the justification for this is to avoid the confusion and conflict and be seated to affect section 3.3 terms of office for appointed officers and permanent appointed boards and commissions whose terms commence on the fourth Monday in November. To avoid conflict with section 4.4 annual meetings, organization elections, and an organization meeting of the RTM members shall be held on the fourth Monday in November in each year. So this is kind of technical, but it actually has caused a lot of
I wish we could change this tomorrow because
this has caused so much confusion.
Is it the third
there's certain things.
Third Monday, the third Monday after election day, which makes it the fourth Monday in some years. Yep.
Registration, resignation and vacancies. The town clerk shall cause notice of the meeting to be delivered to each member not less than 3 days prior to the time set for the meeting. Proposed change, the town clerk shall notify each member of the meeting not less than 3 days before the time set for the meeting. Justification, the town of Fairfield has maintained a website where its residents have immediate access to information. Meetings, notice. The town clerk shall notify all RTM members of the time and place at which each regular or special RTM meeting is to be held. The notice shall be sent by mail at least 5 days before the meeting, and a copy of such a notice shall be published before the meeting in a newspaper having a general circulation in the town and posted as required by the Freedom of Information Act. Proposed change, the town clerk shall notify all RTM members of the time and place at which each regular or special RTM meeting is to be held. The notice shall be published at least 5 days before the meeting. So, a newspaper having a general circulation in the town, that is the issue, because there may not be any anymore, and it's also very expensive. So no one is really looking at the newspapers anymore for RTM special meeting notices. Item 4.5 ordinances. The town clerk shall cause any action of the RTM adopting, amending, or repealing an ordinance to be published in proper summary form within 1 week after the adjournment of the meeting at which such action was taken in a newspaper having a general circulation in the town. And basically similar to the last one, but the proposed change, the town clerk shall cause any action of the RTM adopting, amending, or repealing an ordinance to be published in proper summary form within 1 week after the adjournment of the meeting at which such action was taken. And the justification is the town of Fairfield has maintained a website where its residents have immediate access to information. We have been emailing agendas and backup to town boards and commissions for years. UPS delivery standard for first-class mail delivery anywhere in the US is within 5 days. Thus, we are not in compliance with the town charter. These proposed changes would save taxpayer money while still providing the public with the opportunity of notification in a timely manner. And the last one is eliminate the requirement of at least 10 regular stated meetings a year. And the reason the Connecticut Freedom of Information Act requires that a town agency must file its schedule of regular meetings each year with the town clerk. A special meeting may be called up to 24 hours before the time set for the meeting, and said notice must be filed with the town clerk. So, any questions?
I'll defer to Ms. Cupton.
I don't know if Betsy is
Thank
on the
you,
line.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind, I just want to make a few comments because I do have to pop off. But as you said, Bill, the CRC, the former CRC that I established, did a tremendous amount of work. And I would imagine, I remember it pretty clearly, most of this was their recommendations that you have here now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that you changed your mind and you think now that the CAO or COO or whatever you want to call it is important and should be in the charter. And I brought up multiple times during my 4 years that the WPCF needed changes in the charter because it wasn't running the same way as other towns. And I'm glad that you're seeing that now. The ethics, I think that's important. Although I do want to say, just for the record, the town used an outside vendor for ethics complaints. It's called Lighthouse, and I believe that's still on the town's website. So those would go directly to them and then be aggregated to the Ethics Commission and the Human Resources Department, and I believe the town attorney. I would highly recommend the members, and I know it's a lot of work, and I would hate to say this to you, but the former commission really was handled by a very experienced charter attorney who does charters all across our state. He is the premier charter attorney, and he brought in a lot of good people for presentations, such as public policy people from the universities, also people from CCM and COST and all these different organizations that deal with municipalities. And there was some really, really good presentations by those people. And I think they would be extraordinarily valuable to the members. And I know the former CRC met a lot, and it was a lot of meetings, but I would encourage you to, in your free time, to pull them up on YouTube, or maybe the town would be kind enough to aggregate them in an email through the FairTV person, so that you could see them, because there was a lot of good, so you're not kind of recreating the wheel, and you could see what they said and hear the dialogue that went on and the questions that were asked. There was a lot of very, very detailed questions, and some of the public comments too. So I think it would be extraordinarily helpful for the members to review all of that and sort of save you time, honestly, and not sort of having to repeat, things that were already brought up. And again, even the Department of Public Works, I said that forever. So much pushback about that, saying that a manager should have a PE license, which no other town does that. So these are just things that you could learn a little bit more if you watch those meetings and you see that discussion unfold. And I think it will cut down on your time, I think, dramatically for having to meet and understanding a little bit more about those discussions. And I wish you luck. And obviously, if Bill, you are able to ask the FairTV Commission to send that list to the new members, I think maybe Christine would enjoy being copied on that link of meetings, because I think it's very valuable. And maybe even put it in a newsletter for the public to kind of refresh all the work that was done in the past and kind of get a better understanding of all the different dynamics. And I do apologize. I'm going to have to hop off, and I wish you all well.
Well, thank you.
All right. Have a
And
good
good
night,
luck.
everybody.
I
Good
hope
luck
your
with your
father is
dad.
feeling better, so.
Thank you very much. Take care now.
I feel like I should say that one of the things I'm hoping for, but obviously once this commission forms, they have wide latitude, and I'm no longer I can't force them to do or not to do things, but I hope and pray that I felt like the last commission started off maybe the first 75% of the meetings. There were a lot of meetings. Most of them in the beginning were basic, like fundamental changes in the way we govern the town. A lot of those meetings were about other forms of government. Should we get rid of the RTM? Should we get rid of the Board of Finance? Should we get rid of the Board of Selectmen? Should we be a mayor, town council form of government? And a lot of those speakers, while they were very interesting, and I agree, it's worth listening to, most of those speakers and meetings were about fundamental changes in the way we govern Fairfield. That was roundly, ultimately rejected by a large portion of the town, and so the ultimate product that I would ask you to start with on this commission and look at, that product was very, very different. The first draft, that first draft was actually changing the town to another form of government, and then they had to work through changing it back, and it was very confusing and very controversial. And yes, the end product I think is worth looking at it, but I'm hoping that what I've got from the last go round, which I was a big, I went to watched every meeting. What I got from that was the town is not really interested in less participation. We like having a highly participatory government. I know I did. I like being on the RTM. I don't care. I don't want a 10 or 11 person RTM. I think it's nice to have 40 on the RTM because our district, it brings more people in. We have all these commissions. Yes, sometimes you've got to work hard to keep them on track, but having more people participate in government means more people are asking questions, and they're trying to get facts, and they're trying to explain things to their neighbors. And in my opinion, it works. This is a great town, and it's worked, and it does work. So I'm hoping we try to improve the document, and that we were not sort of spending too much time thinking about blowing up the way we govern ourselves and shifting to another form of government. But ultimately, I can't tell you what to do. So anyway, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't prepared for giving formal recommendations to the commission at this meeting. So I'm hesitant to make any amendments to the document that is before us today. I'm happy to hear that the Board of Selectmen can, at a future date, make recommendations, if anything.
And you could write your own letter too. It doesn't have to be.
Well, I mean, yes, but I appreciate that I could write my own letter, but if I do it as an individual without a Board of Selectmen vote.
Oh, we will vote.
We will vote.
We can vote on your
So I
own
want
letter.
to just inform Ms. Kupchak also, who has been, as she shared, time spent with her father. I appreciate the opportunity to revisit this in the future. I will just say, being that we have the commission members here, in terms of, I agree, I'm not looking to change our form of government. I would be open to exploring increasing the size of the Board of Selectmen to 5 members from 3. I know the statute requires 3, but for towns that are over 10,000 population, I believe we can have up to 6. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, any lawyers in the room. And this is just after serving in this role for close to a year. Some of the challenges come with around FOI, that 2 members basically consist of a quorum of the Board of Selectmen, which prevents us from doing a lot of things. It prevents you and I from talking to one of our state reps about town government. It prevents you from having a phone call with Ms. Kupchak, who is a former first select person of this town and might have valuable information to share with you, but you are not able to do that because that would be a quorum. Also, right now, there's 2 of us. If a selectman is not available for a meeting, there's not minority representation right now, and we have a good portion of our agenda to go through. I think if we had a large board, that issue would be eliminated. So I would just ask the commission to consider that. I will be putting it in writing at a future date and looking at some other towns in Connecticut. There are a number that have 5-person boards of selectmen that I haven't really, I've done the positive, but I really haven't done enough research on potential negatives. In full disclosure to the public, but that's something that initially comes to mind. And I also followed the last Charter Revision Commission and gave comment as chair of the Board of Education for the commission to look at the purchasing authority for the Board of Education, majority municipalities in Connecticut. The Board of Ed serve as their own purchasing authority. I would ask to potentially look at that again. I'm sure Mr. DeWitt would love that. He's already looked at it and it's work on the board.
I'm already making faces.
I know, I'm not even looking, but I can, can feel it. But I feel like I, don't want to totally do a 180 on that. But that, just for the public's sake and for you, that is where I am right now. Agree with really everything moving forward. One thing about the chief COO, I would just question whether or not that, I think the position is absolutely needed. More clarity around roles and responsibility on that, and I do question whether or not it needs to be that position needs to be ex officio to all boards and commissions. Being that members of the Board of Selectmen are ex officio to all boards and commissions that can serve in that capacity, and the first selectman can delegate responsibility to that position if need be. But I'm not willing to accept the document that's before us as accepted, and put on to the commission. Appreciate that after we vote today, this work is in their very able hands, and look forward to seeing it move forward.
I actually like to get, we have attorney Jason Bucksbaum here. Would you like to speak, or is there any on this topic, or would?
Mr. Gerber, I apologize for I have to leave. I just wanted to make one thing just clear. We will be receiving a document with the changes from the former commission, sans the government structure changes. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what they ended up with after a lot of emails from the public was they ended up taking out and reversing out most of those changes, and the ultimate document didn't really have those controversial items in them at all. I think so there were a few things that members of the public didn't like, and we could talk about those later, but by and large it was ultimately in the end mostly positive. A few things, and it was all because it was all one. If it had been broken, I believe that if the changes had been broken out in 10 different questions or 20 different, whatever number, most of them would have passed. But because it was one omnibus question, the things that were, that people didn't feel comfortable with really, doomed the whole document.
Great. Oh, thank you for that. My apologies for interrupting. I'm going to sign off. Thank you again to the board.
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt.
Thanks, Mr. DeWitt. Phil, yeah.
Phil Pierce, town attorney. So the lead lawyer to help the commission on this is going to be my partner Jason Buxbaum. He's at this meeting. I just wanted him to introduce himself to the board and to the members of the commission that are still here.
Thanks for coming, Jason.
Sure. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me. So I'm Jason Buxbaum. I'm one of Phil's partners at Cohen & Wolf. I chair our municipal practice group. The town attorney in the town of Ridgefield and the town of Newtown. And have been doing municipal work for various municipalities for the last 19 years. I also have served on a charter revision commission. I was vice chair of the Charter Revision Commission in my town a few years back. So I've been working with charter revision commissions and towns and charters for many, many years. At this stage, you're talking about recommendations. I just wanted to clarify for you, when the Board of Selectmen makes a recommendation to the Charter Revision Commission, what that means is the Charter Revision Commission, as you said, Mr. First Selectman, they can do what they want with that. But when the Board of Selectmen makes a recommendation, they are required to comment on it when they give their report to you at the end. Any recommendation you make, they do have to at least address in some way, even if they reject it or change it or whatnot. They have to comment on it at the end.
So we will be possibly rejected, but not ignored.
We won't be ignored. But that's the case. I'm happy to answer any other questions or whatnot, but that's who I am, and I'll be available, throughout the process.
Thank you.
Assist the commission.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public? We can vote on mine and Betsy's together.
Yes.
So we will vote on my letter and Betsy's letter jointly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so they pass, and you will have to read these two letters and comment on them. The members to the new members of our Charter Revision Commission, you don't need to stick around for all the things that we're going to talk about from here on, but actually there's one more item, sorry. Item number 6, Board of Selectmen to hear, consider, and act on the following resolution. Resolved that pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 7-190A, the Board of Selectmen, as the appointing authority of the Charter Revision Commission, is required to specify the CRC's deadline for the submission of its draft report to the Board of Selectmen. And now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen hereby specifies that the CRC shall submit its draft report to the Board of Selectmen no later than May 13th, 2025. Seconded. Any comments or questions?
Just the town attorney, just what drives the date?
So my understanding is you're trying to get on the ballot for next November, so you sort of have to work backwards from there. Built into the statutory process, if the charter comes back to you as a draft report on May 13th, the Board of Selectmen then has up to 60 days to hold hearings and do all the things you can do and take up the full amount of statutory time. You have 60 days before you actually have to vote on the charter and send it back to the Charter Revision Commission. That gets you to mid-July. Then the Charter Revision Commission has another 30 days to give it back to you, gets you to mid-August, and then you have another 15 days, and you're at the end of August, and ballot questions need to be prepared the first week in September. So if everybody were to use all the days permitted in the statutes, get up to the deadline of needing to prepare ballot questions. So that's why May 13th is chosen.
Thank you.
And I do recall, I think the last go round, I think the election was November 8th. in 2022. But I believe they went a little bit later, but it caused some angst. So I think they went to June, early June, maybe first week of June, and then they couldn't finish, and they went they postponed it to the next day and the day after that. And I remember being really nervous we were going to miss the deadline. So this provides more cushion.
So I actually also serve on the Board of Selectmen in my town, and charter revision that we appointed the last time around, our meeting was the deadline to prepare ballot questions that had to be the town clerk the next day, and I wouldn't recommend that to anyone.
Yeah, thank you. Any
I appreciate that, just even for the public's sake, that detail.
comments from the public, including our commission members? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye. Aye. Wow, congrats. Okay, here we go. So off to the races.
Thank
In
you.
terms of,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I believe Christine Vitale will chair the first meeting of the Charter Revision Commission, right? Until a chair is selected. I think that's what Tom Flynn did last time, but we have to have an organizational meeting chaired by someone other than, or can the attorney chair it? Okay, we can talk about it.
Talk offline on this.
Okay, all right. Next item.
Bill, I have to jump off one. Again, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, and I really look forward to contributing. I can't thanks enough, and I look forward to working with the entire team, and looking forward also to seeing the documents, so we have a source document. You can start working, doing our homework, right, Bill? Just like along the line you said.
Yep. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you, Eric. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for your time. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thanks.
You too.
Yes, I echo everything Dan just said. Thanks so much. Looking forward.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, here we are. Item number 7, right? Registrar Matt Wagner by phone. Is Matt here? Yep. Matt, you're on mute right now, but Matt, can you hear me? Okay.
I can. Hello.
Okay, I'm going to read this. This requires Board of Finance and RTM approval, whereas the town of Fairfield has been awarded a grant in the amount of $17,519.02 by the state of Connecticut, acting through its Secretary of State office for costs related to implementing and conducting early voting. And whereas the grant does not require any matching funds to be provided by the town, and now therefore be it resolved that the first selectman be and hereby is authorized to accept said $17,519.02 grant funds and execute an assistance agreement between the town and state memorializing the terms of the grant, as well as any and all documents necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of the grant. And be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen hereby appropriates the amount of the grant funds and authorizes the grant funds to be used for the purposes of as specified in the grant. May I have a motion? Seconded. Matt.
Hello.
All right. What's it all about?
The state Secretary of State's office and registrars around the state have been talking a lot about the costs of early voting. And so there was a grant in the spring that we received and that covered the primaries, that sort of addressed the primaries that were happening. And while the legislature didn't want to fund at that same level that they had previously, what they did was spent about $1 million of leftover like ARP money, American Rescue Plan money to be spent on early voting. And while the earlier grant was a fixed sum across all the towns, this grant was sort of more contingent on how many voters you have and the utilization of same day registration and the number of early voting sites that you have. And so we actually received a much larger amount for this grant than we did for the earlier one. So despite the overall grant amount being much smaller statewide, we got a larger grant. So Kathy and I have talked about a few things, and I think that should have made it into your backup that are sort of easy things that we need that we could spend a bunch of money on that weren't necessarily budgeted for specifically. Some of these things we would be able to cover out of our like special department supplies budget line, but some of the larger items, particularly ballot bags, would be able to be used both for early voting and for our incoming tabulator equipment that we're getting from the state next year. That could be like a capital expenditure in the future, and we said, why don't we just sort of get it now so we're ready for when that equipment comes. So those items are listed there with you. If you have any questions about any of them, I think it's pretty straightforward. The stuff that's in there, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions?
Just, we talked a lot about staffing during the budget. Are you feeling, you see there's a line item for staffing for this grant money. Do you feel like that's enough? Do you feel like you're properly staffed to handle early voting?
Yeah, so we're using seasonal funds. So we're budgeting for early voting in the same way that we would for poll workers at an election. So they're not permanent employees. They sort of just work for a short period and are paid out of that line. And so we're replenishing that line a little bit with this, but not doing anything sort of more significant with staffing. We just said, well, here's the equipment and supplies that we can buy. I have a friend visiting me here. Thank you, bud. And what do we have left for the 17,000 so we don't see it go to waste, essentially. So we just said let's replenish some of that that seasonal budget line.
Can I ask Ferris a question?
What's up, buddy?
What's
How
up?
you doing, buddy? All right.
Hi.
Hi.
I have no questions.
Okay.
Any comments from the public? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Ferris.
All right, have a nice evening.
You too. Item number 8, Purchasing Director Adam Toolin and Angeles Papa George, Director of Operations for FBS. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed agreement between the town of Fairfield and BVH Integrated Services, Inc., a Salas O'Brien company of Bloomfield, Connecticut, to provide commissioning services and all else necessary for the Fitz House RTU replacement at Fairfield Ward High School for Town of Fairfield RFQ 2024-81 and the Salas O'Brien proposal dated July 2nd, 2024 for base contract in the amount of $26,300. Funding for this contract is available in account 26009-010-5700-FY226 Phase 1 AC at schools. May I have a motion? Seconded. Angeles. Adam, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. This is Adam Toolin, Purchasing Director. Not a whole lot to say about this one. We did an RFQ. We only got one response, but after review, all parties felt comfortable moving forward. So we have a pretty straightforward professional services agreement that Attorney Pierce has reviewed and we're looking to get approval for.
We approved this, authorized this, several weeks ago. Any questions? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Item passes. That's it. You waited the whole time for that. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Angeles.
All right, thank you. Item number 9, Purchasing Director Adam Toolin and Interim DPW Director John Marsilio. Purchasing Director to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed agreement between the town of Fairfield and J.A. Rosa Construction LLC of Walcott, Connecticut to provide labor, materials, services, and all else necessary for the design and replacement of the old town hall elevator for Town of Fairfield RFP 2025-08 and the J.A. Rosa proposal dated September 10th, 2024 in an amount not to exceed $304,465.00, inclusive of add alternates with additional authority to enter change orders in an amount not to exceed 10% of the original contract value. Funding for this contract is available in account 010-050-030-54320 maintenance/repair of buildings and grounds. Motion.
So moved.
Seconded. Mr. DPW Director, or should we have Adam?
Well, Adam can start.
Adam, do you want to start?
I'll start, yes. So yeah, I guess the most interesting information about this, we put this out as an RFP as opposed to a straight bid because we wanted vendors to propose to us how they would fix the issue. We ended up getting 2 responses, and with James Ryan from facilities, that we interviewed the 2 respondents and ended up going with the lowest price, although that was not the only factor that was considered, and that's J.A. Rosa. I've included in the number in this contract some add alternates that might or might not need to be utilized. So yeah, we've prepared a fairly basic contract due to the relatively small dollar amount of this project. I mean, 300,000 is not small, but compared to other projects. So yeah, just looking for authorization to enter into the agreement.
Awesome. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Morrison?
Well, it's for the Old Town Hall, and I think it's a 4-stop elevator. And it's not reliable, it's full life, and so it's time to replace it.
I would just like to, no, go ahead. Would you want to say something? I would just like to add how integral this is to us, our space issues. This elevator is integral to being able to utilize Old Town Hall to its full extent. And thank you for making this happen.
So new elevator, right? This is new. This elevator,
Rehabbing the existing elevator.
okay. Is there concern about getting parts for this elevator? Just coming from school and dealing with elevators there that we ended their useful life and having problems getting parts for them. So was there an analysis done between refurbishing this one and getting new?
This elevator is past its useful life. And I don't have to tell you, it's vital for ADA compliance. It's on both sides, 4 stops, it's not just a conventional one-stop elevator. So there's a lot of moving parts. So we're best served, the town is best served. I think this approach, we've had some discussions and some analysis of it.
And how long do you foresee this elevator after provided that we move forward with this lasting?
So elevators. Depends on the usage of them. More activity in an elevator, the shorter the lifespan.
And
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you please speak up a little bit? The mic is a little bit far from the podium.
what would the cost be to just get a new elevator?
This is a new elevator.
Yeah,
We're refurbishing this elevator.
no, it's new. It's new.
This is a new cab and equipment and everything. A new elevator would mean a new shaft.
They're not building a new shaft. The elevator and
Just the cab is, so this is a new cab, so we're.
new end motors and that's it. Yeah.
All right. So then you think that 20 years after we do this work? Okay. Oh, just timing wise, really? 180 days?
Thanks, Bucky. Anything else, Adam?
No, I have nothing else to add on that one.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Any comments from the public? See James is there. Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Bucky. So you're staying up there. Item number 10, Purchasing Director Adam Toolin, and Bucky Marsilio to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed agreement between the town of Fairfield and Lux Consulting Engineers LLC, Meriden, Connecticut, to provide surveying services to all else necessary for South Benson Road sidewalk and traffic calming per the Lux Consulting proposal dated September 20th, 2024 for the base contract amount of $26,850. Funding for this contract is available in account 010-0050-30-53200, fees and professional services FY25. Mr. Marsilio.
So moved.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Seconded, Mr. Marsilio.
So, this is for South Benson Road, part of our streets program. Evidence actually went into our evaluation of what we could do with South Benson Road, that a full survey would be required. We know we have a right of way there. However, we discovered that there are some impediments that may be in our way to accomplish what we need to accomplish, to with the geometry that we would require to the Complete Streets program on South Benson Road. So this was put out by our engineering department. There were 3 bids on this, and this was the bidder who was able to get there.
Questions? Yeah, we've talked a lot of, I think we've talked a fair amount about South Benson and of the crashes that have occurred on South Benson and the unease of the pedestrians there, and you have taken the bull by the horns. Thank you very much, and for starting to get this process moving. And I know they'll be very grateful, the people who live on that road, and anyone else who walks to the beach is going to benefit greatly from this. Hopefully, if things work out okay. Any comments from the public? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Here we go. DPW Director John Marsilio, to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the first selectman to enter into an easement agreement with Bridgeport Roman Catholic Diocese Corporation for the town of Fairfield to acquire certain easements over portions of the diocese parcel located at 5151 Park Avenue for an upgrade to construct and or replace existing traffic signals and for associated sidewalk reconstruction, utility work, and other projected related items. May I have a motion? Seconded. Mr. Marsilio.
So our engineering department is in charge with designing and installing a new traffic signal at the mouth at Sacred Heart University. We're doing this in collaboration with the university. However, the university property and maybe Phil wants to do this a little bit is not all in their name. Part of it remains in the diocese's name. So when we were putting our plans together, we determined that a certain portion of the posts and the equipment on that portion, the residual property that is owned by the diocese. So this is merely housekeeping to so that we can do this
Any questions?
We've talked about this project, so.
Talked about this project a fair amount, but this is on the corner of Park and Jefferson?
This is right at the entrance.
Oh, right at the entrance, okay, yeah, right, okay. All right, thank you. Any questions from the comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. You're on item 12, right? Yep. Item 12, DPW Director. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the first selectman to enter into an easement between the town of Fairfield and OH Properties LLC for the town of Fairfield to acquire a pump station and easement at 21-23 Durrell Drive, property owned by OH Properties LLC as approved by the WPCA on September 18, 2024, and unanimously approved by the Town Plan and Zoning Commission on September 24th, 2024. May I have a motion? Seconded, Mr. Marsilio.
So this OH property is Operation Hope. And recent years, I don't know the exact history of it, Operation Hope accepted the low income housing development that exists on Durrell Drive and Uncle Road. And when that project was built, it was done in concert with the town. The town performed excavating work and backfill work and the like because of their desire to create this housing development of 5 units. Subsequent to that, in the mid-90s, homes were built on Paper Lane. Oh, by the way, for those 5 units, a pump station was required and a force main that was installed to go up Paper Lane. And subsequent years, 6 more homes were built on Paper Mill Lane that also utilized this pump station. During the course of all of this, WPCA received Paper Mill Lane connections, connection fees, somewhere between $7,000 and $9,000 each. Over all these years, the WPCA has received the fees from these homes. And yes, in recent years, Operation Hope assumed the property from the previous developer and the town realized that they were going to be responsible for the maintenance of this pump station. Small as it is. It's the last pump station in the town of Fairfield that isn't operated by the WPCA. This has been presented to the WPCA Commission. They've approved the acceptance of the pump station. And this is some housekeeping again for the town to accept this easement for that location. Have been approved by town council. Requires the first selectman.
Questions?
This was before the WPCA. Yes, the feeling was the town has been receiving the benefits of this pump station through user fees, connection fees, and the cost to just bring it up to current standards is low. And down the line, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Marsilli, it may not be needed as other improvements are done.
Of our examination of all of this, we determined that there might be other options. That still hasn't been.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks. Item number 13, Bill, General Manager of WPCA, and Conservation Director Tim, who's just walked in. To hear, consider, and act on approving a management plan and memorandum of understanding between the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, and the town of Fairfield for the operation of the conditionally approved shellfish growing areas in Fairfield, Connecticut. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded,
So this is a management plan and memorandum of understanding for us to enter into with the State Department of Agriculture's Agriculture Division. It's a renewal of a 2016 management plan and MOU. It's specific towards our joint in the state of Connecticut's protection of our conditionally approved shellfishing areas. And it has a joint interest between our conservation department and our WPCA due to the notification requirements of the management plan and MOU. Specifically speaking on behalf of the WPCA requirements, the MOU and management plan requires the WPCF to comply with its existing state-issued National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. That permit requires the WPCF to report to the state of Connecticut and our local health department any system upset resulting in the release of raw sewage or partially treated wastewater. It also requires the WPCF to provide that same notification when it fails to meet its minimum effluent limit requirements under its state issued permit. So this is written into the MOU. Again, it's already a requirement in our state permit. Above and beyond those requirements, the MOU requires the WPCA to submit to the Department of Agriculture its monthly operating reports. WPCF already submits those reports to the state of Connecticut DEP. It also will require us to complete an annual performance questionnaire for our facility that would include the identification of any facility or operational upgrades, as well as any general operating conditions for our year, including our assessment of compliance with our state issued permit. What the MOU requires the State Department of Agriculture to do is to notify us, the WPCA, annually of their notification procedures and appropriate contacts if those procedures or contacts change. There has been no change and no significant changes on requirements in this agreement for the WPCA specifically, other than updates that WPCA has made to the document for contact information and operating conditions of operation that are made up to date since 2016.
can you remind me what the term, like the notification is like hours, right, or is it 24 hours?
It's within 2 hours.
Oh, 2 hours.
Yeah.
From the conservation's department standpoint, like Michelle said, it's a collaborative effort between multiple town departments and the state agency. Our concern falling under our umbrella is the shellfish beds. That effort is solid and really during this iteration of the MOU, the changes were pretty strictly to the notification process that I updated with the Shellfish Commission. And that's really just the ability for the public and the permit holders that consume shellfish to be able to have an efficient and accurate way to collect that information of whether the beds are open or closed. Internally, since my department monitors rainfall, which is the 1.5 trigger, 1.5 of rainfall within 24 hours is the trigger for closure. Whether we recognize that before the state does or vice versa is when the beds get closed. So again, not a whole lot of changes from our standpoint, except just that notification procedures. That's really all that changed. Together, and I think we made the document that one.
Have the document reviewed by attorneys.
Yeah. So the WPCF, they have like a formal, there's someone designated as the notifier, I guess, and if they're on vacation, then there's a deputy notifier.
We do.
Yeah,
And so we have our superintendent, who is identified as our primary notifier, and we go down the line, we have our assistant superintendent. The state uses an online notification system,
Okay,
and so that's how we report.
cool, thank you. Any comments from the public? None, back to the board, all in favor say aye. Aye, thank you very much. Tim, yeah. Conservation Director Tim Bishop, thanks Michelle. Item number 14, to hear, consider and act on approving an agreement between the town of Fairfield and the United Illuminating Company for the installation of a bird pole and platform within the public right of way on property at 550 Mill Plain Road to mitigate nesting concerns. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Tim.
So this came to me over the summer where a nesting osprey caused a fire on a utility pole on private property behind the high school. And I got involved and with UI, collaborating with UI and DPW's highway department, we were considering moving that the future platform to replace the live pole that the birds were using within the town right of way, closer to the curb. If I had to guess, I would say it may be 30 or 40 feet. It's on town property, and that's the reason why I had to get this permission. There's no cost to the town. Attorney Pierce reviewed the document UI submitted for said easement. I don't have any concerns, and I don't want to speak for Phil, but
Phil, any comments or questions?
No, I mean, it's a pretty limited amount that's being given. Conservation Director is okay with it, I think it's fine.
I just feel this whole thing's for the birds.
and just to be clear, this is a standard utility pole with a platform on the top. And we're also gonna put some protection on the live electric pole that was previously used and caused the damage to discourage the birds from using that one and going on to the new one. Selfishly, technically, the birds would look to start to use that in February or March. We'd likely have that in before year end, or at least before nesting season, so it should be a relatively quick process.
Cool, great. Any comments, questions?
We have a lot of these. I'll follow up offline. I don't want to waste any more time about this. Just thinking about, the ospreys nesting on the lights at Ludlow Field and issues with that. Just wondering if we need to have more of them around town to kind of prevent these type of issues that we seem to be having with these birds.
They have a lot of I think from the conservation standpoint, they have a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of nesting platforms for them in our tidal marshes. Since I've been here, I've installed 2 new ones off of Bullfield Road. But as many as those are, and even with increasing populations, they're still gonna wanna go wherever they want. Cell phone towers and football field poles, so.
Okay.
Think like an osprey.
Yeah, no further questions.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board, all in favor say aye.
Say aye. Aye.
Thanks, Tim.
My blood sugar's going way down.
All in favor say chirp. Item number 15, Eli Gazal, is he on? He was.
I'm on.
Oh, okay. Project Manager Eli Gazal, whereas the town of Fairfield, the town has been awarded a grant in the total amount of $122,250,000 by the state of Connecticut as part of the Department of Energy. And whereas The grant is for the construction of a canopy over the recycling trailer at the transfer station located at 898 Richard White Way. Currently, the trailer is uncovered and much of the deposited material is rendered unsuitable for recycling due to weather damage. And now therefore be it resolved that the first selectman be and hereby is authorized to accept said grant and execute any and all required documents to effectuate said grant. And be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen hereby appropriates the amount of the grant funds and authorizes the grant funds to be used for the purposes as specified in the grant. May I have a motion? Seconded. And this is finally gonna get done, Eli, right?
Yes, this is finally gonna get done. First step is just to accept this grant, $122,250. Again, it's a metal canopy with an aluminum roof over a container at the transfer station, which basically protects the cardboard and any recycling we have from weather damage.
Awesome. Any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
We've heard about this many times. Any comments from the public? Bruce? Back to the board. All in favor say aye. Aye. Item passes. Thank you. And item number 16, Town Attorney Phil Pierce and HMC consultant Jeff Stedman to hear, consider, and act on approving the first selectman executing on behalf of the town of Fairfield a joinder to a temporary easement between the Country Club of Fairfield Incorporated and the United States of America, acting by and through the Department of the Army Corps of Engineers. May I have a motion? Seconded. And I would like to point out at the last meeting, we did the first part of this, and this is the final part of this, which will allow the dredging to occur. So Jeff Stedman, take it away.
Thank you very much. We should also acknowledge June Taylor who's here. She's the former chair of the Harbor Commission, and she's fortunately agreed to work to coordinate this project for us. So much gratefulness to her. And,
thank you, Kim.
I know we talked about this last Friday, but I brought this handout that gives an overview of our project, the dredging project. And we're also updating this to reflect what we're working on now. And that the update will be on the Harbor Commission's website soon. And so the agreement that's before you, I certainly can't speak to the substance of that. I can talk about what we're doing, the dredging project and how important it is. But of course, Attorney talk about the details of the agreement. This photograph that shows Southport Harbor. It's often described as one of the most beautiful and historic locations on the Connecticut coast, which is what it is. And the project that we're working on is a project, actually, I've been fortunate for the last 35 years to work for the Harbor Commission, and it's a project we started on 35 years ago, actually, the dredging of the navigation channel. So Southport Harbor, as we talked about, is served by a federal navigation project authorized by the United States Congress. And it consists of a federal anchorage and a navigation channel, the harbor jetty, and the wall along each side of the harbor. Looking at this is really a fascinating bit of history because it's one of the earliest federal navigation projects authorized in the United States. It goes back to 1829. The jetty at the mouth of the harbor was authorized and built by 1835, but the purpose of the jetty was to block the movement of sand from east to west along the shore into the opening of the harbor. And at that time, Southport Harbor was a substantial port on the Connecticut coast. It's famous, but a well-known quotation in a book that in the early 1800s there was more commerce moved through Southport Harbor per capita than any other port between New York and Boston. So at the time of the authorization of the navigation project, Southport was a commercial port. The navigation channel was also authorized, again, to be maintained by the federal government. Now the responsibility for maintenance is with the Army Corps of Engineers. We mentioned on Friday, back at that time, dredging took place by the the townspeople using road scrapers at low tide that were pulled by oxen in the harbor. So the equipment is a little bit different today, but the issue is the same. The main issue is sand that's naturally moving along the coast and it's encroaching into the channel. And I think this is an effective image to show the extent of that encroachment that's taken place. It's over half of the width of the Federal Navigation Project of the channel. And as a result, the larger boats cannot pass each other in the channel at one time. So back in, again, when I started and the town was working on the harbor management plan to clarify management of the harbor and the town's role and the federal role and the state role, the big issue that we were faced with was to maintain and achieve a dredging project in the harbor. And that the Corps of Engineers agreed to pursue after the harbor management plan was adopted in 1995. And there were federal funds authorized to do that. And so the Corps retained a contractor, dredged the whole harbor, but was not able to dredge the full 100-foot width of the navigation channel because of the presence of various species, as we talked about, that are on a state list of threatened plants. So we did not get approval from the DEP at the time to dredge the full 100-foot width. And so that encroachment continues over the jetty. Twice in coordination with that federal project, the town DPW excavated material using excavators and a dump truck, excavated material from the side of the channel, brought it on trucks back to Sasko Beach and nourished Sasko Beach with it, with that material. After Storm Sandy, in 2012, in 2014, the DPW did the same thing. And then you can see in the drawings, there's a slide showing the excavation equipment that was used with a long-armed excavator. So now we jump ahead to 2024, and the Corps has been diligently working to maintain and restore the full 100-foot width of that channel. So federal funds over $1 million have been allocated to do that. The method to use to do this is going to be a little bit different than what was done in 2004, 2005, when a contractor was retained and used a bucket and a scow to put the material in and then took it to a disposal site. This time, the Corps has its own dredge. It's a hopper dredge, and it essentially sucks up hydraulically the sandy material into the hold of the ship. It goes a little bit offshore, the hull splits, and the sand is dispersed. So the Corps of Engineers felt that this would be the most efficient way, the most effective way to restore the 100-foot channel. But at the same time, the Corps of Engineers' own construction crew will operate an excavator, just like the DPW did last in 2014, to excavate sand from the shoal, put it into the hopper dredge. And then the dredge will go offshore and disperse the sand. And you asked about the shellfish restoration and pilot project on Friday. We talked with the Bureau of Aquaculture director today a little bit more about that. And he said, yes, they're still planning, the Bureau of Aquaculture, to plant oyster shell on the area that would be identified offshore. There's a map in there that shows it. It would take about a year, he said, for the sand to settle down. Then they would plant the oyster shell on it to see how it goes. But a significant part of this, and I'm talking too much and I'll stop here. The reason for the instruments of access that the town attorney is talking about is the need to have access for the Corps of Engineers on-land equipment from Sasko Beach along the shoreline up to the point of the dredging to be able to put dig into the sand and put it into the dredge. So that involved the agreements and understandings with the town and the country club to provide that access. And when we did this, when the DPW did this in 2004 and 2014, it was a fairly easy process to follow. The there was a memorandum between the town and the country club and the harbor commission, simply stating that we were all gonna work together, and if there's any damage, we'll fix it and we'll look at the equipment at night. But since the federal government is involved in this, there's a much more detailed process and legal process that has to be followed. And so that's where we are now. The last thing I'll say is that the progress we've made on this is substantial because, as I mentioned, 20 years ago, DEEP would not allow us to restore the full 100-foot width of the channel. Now we have approval from DEEP to do just that. And we're going to have to move some of the state listed plants, and we have a plan for doing that. But we have the DEP approval to do this now. And it's a substantial accomplishment, I think. And thank you for letting me go on so long.
Thanks, Jeff. I just have to voice my disappointment that you're not using the oxen to do I've been waiting 10 minutes to say that. But I thank you so much for all your work on this. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. Do you have any comments? I feel like I own this project now because we 2 weeks ago we went over the first part of getting this done, and now this is it. I hope after we approve this, and then it's just a matter of the Army Corps, it's the Army Corps, just carving out the time. I mean, they're going to come soon, right? Like within the next few weeks, or
we hope so.
Yeah,
but you know, we can't get to that point unless we go through all of this. So the scheduling of the dredge and the operation, we were first told that we needed to do this, a month ago because the dredge is in demand across the coast. So we're working the best we can, and we hope that we can start this in the near future.
Wait, what's the name of the dredger again? It's like the boat that you're.
The boat's called the Murden.
The Murden.
Yeah. And it's owned by the Corps of Engineers and operated by the Corps of Engineers. That's why the self-sufficient is the most efficient way to do it, because the project didn't have to go out to bid.
Right.
And the last thing I wanted to give you, the first slide, is that old drawing that I mentioned before of the three people in the early 1800s standing at the mouth of Southport Harbor.
Okay.
That's on the left side. That photo is always stuck in that photo.
Right.
Showing people standing on the mouth of the harbor in the early 1800s, essentially doing the same thing that we're doing now, trying to figure out how to stop the sand.
But with oxygen. Yeah. Thank you so much. Any comments?
No.
Bill, do you wanna?
Yeah, thanks for this handout. I told my husband about this presentation when we had it a couple weeks ago. He was fascinated. He's a boater, so I'm gonna bring this to him. This will be his anniversary gift from me. Which is today. My anniversary is today, and
Anniversary.
I'm gonna bring.
That was pretty cheap, actually. Take him out to dinner and then.
I'm gonna bring in dinner.
Alright.
I mean, this is a gift.
It's like Heckle and Jekyll after 2 hours,
Yeah, it's like.
But yeah, so any comments from the public, of which all are in. Okay, again, thank you so much. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Bruce. And back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Congratulations. It's quite a process. Item 17, tax assessor to hear, consider, and act on approving an amendment to an agreement for revaluation services between the town of Fairfield and Tyler Technologies. May I have a motion? Seconded. Ross, sorry to keep you.
Sorry. I don't have any pictures and slides.
There are pictures in the backup.
Bye, Jeff. Take care.
We're looking to amend the contract with Tyler, our revaluation contractor, so that they can contract with Cyclomedia to do the street level images. We've planned all along to do street level images, it's been in the budget. It was the vendor I was looking to. They are on the state contract, so we would not have had to go out to bid for them. And we'll be saving just over $8,000 by doing this, and Tyler will use their expertise to help manage the project then, because it will be under their contract. So I think it's a win-win all the way around.
Yep. Thank you. Any comments? I have no comments. Any comments from the public? Bill, Prue, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Thank you so much, Russ. Thanks for sticking around. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you.
Item number 19, to consider an act upon the minutes of September 12th, 2024. May I have a motion?
We need 18.
Oh, jeez. Got ahead of myself. This will be quick. 18, interim chief fiscal officer. I'm actually taking this one because I was intimately involved in this. To hear, consider an act upon an ICS deposit placement agreement between M&T Bank and the town of Fairfield for implementing IntraFi insured cash services. May I have a motion? Seconded. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I presented cash balances, how when we started in our term, it was up over $100 million. Didn't feel comfortable with that. We've worked to move uninsured cash deposits into segregated brokerage accounts and invested in U.S. Treasuries, ladder Treasuries, which we own. They're not part of a general fund of another institution. However, we need to keep balances in M&T Bank, and we have found that we have to have at least $10 million on deposit with M&T Bank. We got, as I mentioned, and you asked, and I answered that we got close one day where we had to do a last minute wire transfer. So having that, even the 10 million there, that can get used up in a day or two. So we don't always see when, like the Board of Ed, they'll tell us at the last minute that they're going to pay for something. So what IntraFi is it's a program where your balances up to a cap can go out to many other banks where the balances are under $250,000, so they are insured. So this 10 million would go out to many, like I think they have like 3,000 banks dispersed. And then you have full access to it like the next day. It's really a book entry system it's a netting system between the banks, but this way you never breach the cap of 250,000 and you are fully FDIC insured. And this is a good way for us to continue to feel comfortable, because 10 million isn't nothing, and at times we may have more than that. It's during when taxes are coming in, that can build up quickly. And as long as it doesn't breach the cap, which I believe we can go up to about 50 million total, and still be able to be in this program with that balance fully FDIC insured. So I think it's a good solution for this residual balance. Any questions?
No, thank you for looking into this and keeping our taxpayers' money and our town's money safe.
And secure.
Safe. I appreciate the
thank
work of you and the finance department.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye. So that item passes. Item number 19, minutes, to consider and act upon the minutes of September 12th, 2024. May I have a motion? Seconded. Any comments? I have none from the public. Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye. Aye. Item 20, refunds, tax collector, to consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $40,206.87. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Any comments, questions from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 21, first selectman updates. I will be very brief, but I do want to I do want to talk a little bit about Police Chief Bob Calamaris. He was honored with the Distinguished Chiefs Award by the Police Commissioners Association of Connecticut in late September. I was there. It was really moving. He was awarded this for his exemplary service and dedication to public safety. Commissioner Ron Pine gave the introduced him. It was just very nice and well deserved. Town Planning and Zoning Commission has scheduled a hearing on Tuesday, October 15th at 6:30 p.m. at the Regional Fire School on Richard White Way. This is public opportunity to give public comment on the draft plan of conservation and development, POCD. This is a big deal, and I would urge anyone who hasn't to read the draft POCD. And if you have any comments or questions you can email them in at tpzcommission@fairfieldct.org, but show up and give your comments in public as well. You can find the draft on the Town Planning and Zoning Commission website. Go to that tab on the Fairfield website, go to that section. On the left is a resources like rectangular box, and within that is the draft POCD.
Is a newsletter scheduled to go out this week?
Yes.
I would just ask that you maybe include it with the link to the plan just to make it easier for.
We are planning on doing that for sure. Thank you. I believe.
You are.
Well, that would be not me.
Not you, but
Lisa Claire. That is the next thing is October's Fire Safety Month. So our fire department conducts its annual senior citizen smoke detector program. They visit hundreds of homes and check smoke detectors and change batteries. Any senior resident needing assistance can call the fire marshal's office at 203-254-4720 and ask them to come look at it. It's a great service, and fire marshal's an amazing person. So, and item number 22, announcements. Do you have any announcements?
I do. Health Department flu clinics are being run. I'm sure everyone has seen it, but in case you haven't, there are walk-in appointments available on Mondays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Public Health Nursing Building behind the Senior Center, and every Tuesday, 3 to 6 p.m. by appointment by calling 203-256-3150 to make an appointment. For those that are going out to POCD, we need the town hall next week. There's also a Board of Ed town hall on the 15th, which begins at 8 p.m. So you could go to TPZ at 6:30, and then if you're looking for something else to do, you can head over to central office for Board of Ed town hall. And lastly, we'd just like to congratulate the McKinley School PTA. They were recognized as a PTA School of Excellence. And the next WPCA meeting is October 16th. That's my report for being a liaison to the board.
You're gonna kill me. I have an announcement too. We have a rally scheduled at the Fairfield Theater Company, FTC, November 12th at 7 p.m. Regarding the United Illuminating Monopole fight to get them not built. Maisa Tisdale will be there from Bridgeport. She will be talking about the Freeman homes, and I believe giving a presentation on that. So that will be cool. Okay, item number 23, town attorney, executive session with town attorney Bill Pierce and attorney Rick Aiken. Is Rick online?
He is. Bill, why don't you motion both items to go into executive session?
I will.
And we'll do one for both.
I will. Okay, good, thank you. Rick Aiken, to discuss pending claims / litigation, Robert Petrie versus Town of Fairfield, possible action to approve a settlement after executive session, and executive session with town attorney Phil Pierce to discuss pending claim / litigation, Fairfield Station Lofts LLC versus Town of Fairfield, possible action to approve a settlement after executive session. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Okay, we will go into executive session.
So,
Is that
Enjoy your dinner.
I think we're all set. It's recording. Yes, we're all set.
Oh, cool. Motion to come out of executive session.
Second,
So
In favor?
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. In the case of Robert Petrie versus Town of Fairfield, approve the action for settlement as discussed in executive session. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. In the case of Fairfield Station Lofts LLC versus Town of Fairfield, the possible action to approve a settlement after executive session. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we are
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.